Honestly, I'd love to see a whole group of Pokemon based on the various organs. Could be fun.
I did say that, didn't I?
So yeah, I just commissioned a whole set of Pokemon based on human guts from the artist Geodude 1580. And it's time for the showcase. Context though, in our video about Gulpin and Swalot, we found out that on top of being stomach Pokemon, they are also definitely a gallbladder and possibly a liver, but each with stomach abilities. Sorta the gut Pokemon in general. But both of these organs are directly used in the digestion process too, but I'll save those details for their video. The one other thing worth mentioning is that Swalot seems to also pull in from a sea creature known as a tunicate. They are just big, upright, standing stomachs with huge mouths that happen to call the ocean off the coast of real-world Hoenn home. So, for these Pokemon based on the main human organs, the ones you learn about in elementary school, we will also pull from basic sea life as an inspirational source. Our first new Pokemon even pulls from the same family of sea life as the Swalot line, the tunicate, or sea squirts. Only instead of a poison-type digestive organ, it is a fighting-type muscle organ. This is Pumpull.
Pumpull.
It pumps its fists and pulls water into them. It filters nutrients out of seawater faster while working out, so it's always going at it. And with its insomnia ability, it cannot sleep because it is a heart. It gets no rest, always beating. That's why its name is 2 syllables like a heartbeat too.
Pumpull.
It's like a muscle man, working out constantly, pumping iron, doing pull-ups, all of it for the physique. See, when Pumpull does a flexi pose, it's shaped like your classic heart shape, and I definitely could see it wanting to impress Love Disc in the anime. The heart always has blood moving in and out of it unless something has gone horribly wrong. And similarly, tunicates are these sea creatures that are constantly pumping seawater in and out to filter feed. They even have multiple valves and are vaguely heart-shaped, literal hearts in this case. So the inspiration is clear. Pumpull spend most of their lives in reefs, but they do like to come to the beach to show off. Sometimes they get in fights, and when that happens, it likes to use its signature move, Hurt Beat. It's gonna beat you and make you hurt from all the way over there. Using its hollow arms, it punches hard and sends its punch through a bubble. It's like a physical Hadouken, only wet. This special punch acts similarly to Flying Press. It is a dual fighting water type move.
Pumpull.
Now, from something so lovely to the opposite. What is a thing that everybody does that we so rarely want to talk about? Well, other than that. Good guess, but no, other than that too. No. It's pee! Or poop, or both. The original power couple. Check out this little dude!
Kyuboko!
This water type is a close relative of Pyukumuku, if you couldn't tell. Just like, kind of flip it, bam, Pyukumuku. And likewise, it is also a sea cucumber, but specifically the 3-road sea cucumber, which has this beautiful color. Yeah, this is the bladder. Look at a bladder. The snoot. The mustache. Yeah, those are just tubes, but still. Like Pyukumuku, Kyuboko has the innards out ability, only visually, instead of a punch of Survarian tubules in the shape of a fist, it's a bunch of icky liquid with bits of gravel in it, like kidney stones, which, from experience, hurt. I only had a tiny one, and it was some of the most pain I've ever been in. But look, obviously Pokemon would never have literal
And the pee-pee and the poop.
Pokemon. But look at Relor. It's a dung beetle, only instead of fecal poopy dung, it's just a dirty ball of mud. So, same idea here. Sea cucumbers do eat sand. Well, they don't eat the sand. Rather, they swallow sand and ingest the algae off of it, and then they, leave sandy globs behind. So yes, Kyuboko is filled with slimy liquid suspending sand within. So it also learns many sand moves. And it loves eating dirty sand and drinking dirty water so much that we had to give it a fancy chef mustache. The name sounds a bit like cucumber with that Pyukumuku flair, but it combines that with boko, which is Japanese for bladder.
Kyuboko!
Oh, careful, don't spook it. You might get squirted. Actually, don't tickle it or make it laugh too much either, or you're in for a surprise. A common euphemism for urinating is going number 1, and therefore this number 1 needs to evolve into its number 2. So now this is our water ground type intestines Pokemon, Nolocolon. Same syllable flow as Pyukumuku, Nolocolon. Nice. It's based not just on intestines, but also on the longest of sea cucumbers, the snake sea cucumber, which perfectly is again a yellowish brown, and ends in some tentacles that remind me of some big BMs after binging on salad. Bonus fact about sea cucumbers in general, while they do have defined mouths and anuses, they actually eat with both? So Nolocolon has a whole equally sized head on each end, hence also its name being colon backwards and then forwards. It's a palindrome, unlike the word palindrome, and oh gosh, that's always made me mad! Those heads being bigger around than the body in the middle is sort of a reference to there being small intestine and large intestine, and the tentacles look like crazy, dirty old man beard, because you almost have to be a bit brain wonky to be into these kinds of things. The kind of man who voyeuristically hides inside outhouse tanks, or like those kids at schools who smear stuff all over bathroom walls. In kids, that's unfortunately usually a major sign of abuse at home, but in adults, it's just messed. Now, I normally don't show the drawings that I do to give to the commissioned artists, but I really want to this time because I'm proud of it. Yeah, look at him, and that just about describes this whole mon's personality too. It's like Anime Brock turned up. Maybe like Master Roshi, or the countless examples of the dirty old man trope that anime just happens to love so much.
You'll pay for this!
This is all a big mistake.
You remind me of my granddaughter.
Plus, sea cucumbers and really many creatures on the seafloor and above are fish poop eaters. Remember that the next time you have tilapia. It's the poopiest fish. Other than part of colon backwards, Nolo also means no contest, or I have no defense in a court setting. It's like you just caught this guy doing something gross and unspeakable with something gross, and he just says, I have no defense. Punish me however you see fit, for I have already won. It still has the innards out ability, only visually this time it's just straight up a dark, sandy, mud-colored Pukumuku fist, but rather than in a punchy position, it's in a gropey, squeezy, grabby position. And, let's talk about something else now. Like today's sponsor. If you're like me, you like reading a bit before bed, or when you have 10 to 15 minutes to kill here and there, or several hours. Ooh. Reading is really good for your brain, even when there's lots of pictures. And light novels and comics are a fun and easy way to fulfill that primal brain urge. And today's sponsor, WebNovel, puts a ton of light novels and comics into the palm of your hand. From already complete books to books with ongoing chapter updates, from fantasy to action to romance, there's novels for everyone, but especially if you're into anime-style plots and writing. Hence the art style of most of the covers, and the art style of the comics. Ooh. Spicy. The featured novel right now is The First Legendary Beastmaster, because they know you and that you like Pokemon. It's a monster taming novel. It's a lot like if Pokemon were set in a magic-based dystopia, and there was a lot more confrontation, especially with the main villain at the end, but I won't spoil it. It's good. It follows Carl as he grows into adulthood as a student in the Golden Dragon Nation who attains unique magic powers in a world where magic is what gets you out of poverty. And he also has a magic Triceratops named Thor. It's basically his starter beast. Thor and the other beasts help keep the novel balanced as the overarching setting becomes increasingly darker, because they provide a little bit of relief to that. You can check out WebNovel with the link at the top of the description, and then easily start adding comics and novels that just sound interesting to you. There's very little commitment, and I like that a lot. I also like the energy in I just want to be killed by everyone. That's a mood. Big thanks to WebNovel for helping us make videos like this one. Having Pokemon based on organs also pull from sea life is super smart, honestly, because our innards are dark and goopy like fish already, but also because blood itself is simulated ocean. No, really, I'm oversimplifying, obviously, but all life began in the ocean, and as super simple single cells. They don't need blood because it's just a cell, but when life took a massive step and put a cell inside another, and the cells began grouping up into small multicellular organisms, the number of cells were still so few that they could get by without a circulatory system. In fact, today, many flatworms and nematodes don't even have a circulatory system. They're small and simple enough, they just don't need it. But life, being ever progressive, did not want to stick with nematodes. There were humans on the horizon, and sugar gliders. But there was a roadblock. As creatures grew in size and complexity, there came to be too many cells, and the innermost ones were dying, unable able to receive all the nutrients and oxygen they needed. And so, the circulatory system was born. But not one with blood, not yet. But fun fact, starfish have a circulatory system, but no blood. They just straight up use the seawater and push it through their system to get what they need to all their cells. So they essentially made it this far in evolution and said, you know, this is fine. This does create its own problems though. Gosh, says Life, if only I hadn't also invented bacteria and stuff. It just keeps getting into all my cool creatures. But there's no other liquid around that can carry the nutrients and oxygen that they need besides seawater. Ugh. If only I had seawater, but like filtered and in a closed loop system to keep the gross out. Blood. Life just came up with blood. That's why it's salty, like the sea. But at first, this blood was just filtered seawater in a closed loop. It would take 1, 2, 3... a very long time before we got to the many different kinds of blood found in the animal kingdom today. But yes, all of our insides point to the ocean as the reason they exist the way they do. But back on topic, in that Swalot video, I did specifically say
I could definitely see an alternate Gulpin evolution that's based on the pancreas and yellow.
So I guess it's time for that.
this is Swigain. It's got Swalot's body shape and colors, but inverted. The names of the line are pretty basic. It gulps in, it swallows a lot, it swigs again, and gains weight. The gaining weight aspect is important because it's a pancreas. This organ is responsible for all sorts of hormones and enzymes in the body, but its two biggest jobs are creating the enzymes that digest protein and creating insulin, which stores calories in the form of glucose into the fat. The pancreas directly makes you fat. You can blame it for your pudge. When my pancreas basically half died in 2018, I lost about 50 pounds in 3 weeks despite not changing my eating or exercise at all. Oversimplifying it, no insulin equals no obesity because the carbohydrates you eat can no longer enter into fat storage without insulin. And that sounds really nice until you realize it also means you die. My blood sugar was so high and acidic that I was melting from the inside out, literally. So I have type 1 diabetes now and have to manually inject my insulin several times a day. Not something to want if you're scared of needles. So yes, I had to make the pancreas Pokemon sad. It's what you get. You've caused me so many problems. Plus, most folks don't like being overweight and so would have a negative view of the organ responsible for producing the whole get fat hormone. Granted, it is just doing its job, and it's only producing so much of it because of what you eat. Too many carbohydrates. Addictive and delicious carbohydrates.
So delicious!
Anyway, Swigain is a sad Swalot and eats lots to help with the sad mood. And that's about it, honestly. It differs from Swalot in both size and stats. In fact, the size of your Gulpin is what determines which it evolves into. The smallest of them becomes Swigain, because the pancreas is a lot smaller than the liver, you know? And rather than having higher defenses like Swalot, Swigain has higher attack stats. And now, for the most popular and excellent of the organs. No, not that one. It's the brain. It's excellent because it told me to write that. The brain is an ever-working intelligence network. The vast majority of your functions in and outside the body are controlled by brains. One of the only things in your body the brain does not actively do is keep your heart beating. It does that on its own, so long as it has oxygen. So the Mon. This is the psychic rock type Tentellect. The brain was always going to be psychic type, of course, but is a Malamar relative that mixes together a squid and some hardened brain coral, which honestly is a no-brainer. You know, you're making a brain Pokemon, brain coral. Easy. You can make it look so cool in so many different ways, I've seen it countless times. The brain stem here doubles as a nose-looking appendage thing, and it's got big eyes and super feely tentacles, as its many senses are heightened, as that's also what the brain do. Tentacles mostly belong to cephalopods, who have some extreme intellect, and like the other psychic-type cephalopod Pokemon Malamar, Tentellect has some minor mind control abilities. The many coral polyps in the folds of its brain are like neurons, and help it continuously radiate psychic energy all around it. It's like an invisible cloud of knowing exactly where everything in the cloud is precisely, giving Tentellect Sable Eye's keen eye ability. albeit for different reasons. You cannot reduce its accuracy, and it ignores when others raise their evasion. It can do that just fine though, and has a penchant for double team, not because it's so fast you see multiple of them, but because it's making its opponent see things. Brains are tricky. The human brain is the most complex thing in the known universe, or at least our brains think so. But with such complexity, things can easily go wrong, and you can start seeing things that aren't there or feel feelings for no discernible reason. Why are you so nervous and anxious and on edge over nothing, huh? Maybe it's a Tentellect being wary of your presence. It's implanting those moods. Alright, one more Pokemon that's a bag, and then we gotta get more creative. But I mean, organs are pretty much just specialized bags in different shapes and sizes. The intestines are like those long bags that hold posters. But it's time we got away from that. Well, almost. We gotta do one more. This is... where did it go? Where did... Oh, they stole my freaking kidney! This is Glomerob. You'll notice they are two guys. This is Glomer. And this is Rob. They are water bug type and are akin to Paris in that the thing that is on top is not exactly welcome, but it's just a part of life for all of them now. The kidney's primary job is to filter the liquids in your body, and it does so specifically with the many nephrons inside the plethora of glomeruses. And it's doing all this while the adrenal gland is just sitting there right on top of it. The adrenal gland, as the name suggests, is where adrenaline is made, and cortisol, the stress hormone. Do you feel stressed? You've got too much cortisol, or any of the many hormones made by the adrenal glands, specifically the ones that make you feel stressed, worried, anxious, fearful, nervous, or having high blood pressure. Yep, you can thank this little bugger. The two of them are so close because on top of those stressy hormones nobody likes, it also produces hormones like aldosterone, which helps control the balance of water and salts in the kidney and abroad. So they do work together, but I imagine it's a stressful situation. The kidneys take so much stress. That's why they're like always the first organ to go. It's all the stress. It's like a sea creature with a parasite that happens to just help now and again, I guess. You see, Glomerob is also inspired by a sea anemone with its tentacles retracted inside, and right on top is a necklace worm crossed with a tongue-eating louse. You may have seen those parasites in fish mouths replacing their tongues. Yeah, very stressful for the poor fish. Necklace worms are not as mean to the anemone as that. In fact, they aren't really parasitic at all. They just also don't help the anemones the way clownfish famously do. Necklace worms are more like your noisy, annoying neighbors, always being loud, maybe setting off fireworks at random times of the year, stressing your dog out. Necklace worms live around the anemones, and will just occasionally take a bite out of one of them. Not so much to kill it or harm it too much in any way, but enough to stress the poor anemone while it heals. It just robbed a tiny bit of its flesh. Like imagine being poked really, really hard in the same spot every day on the clock. It'd get annoying and stressful pretty quick. Glomerob spends most of its time worrying about nothing, and stress eating, mood, but it also has two mouths to feed after all. It's one of those Pokemon that learn the Swallow trifecta: swallow, stockpile, and sit up. But thanks to its new ability, Soaked, all of its normal type attacks are water type. It's gonna burp pee on ya, I guess. Now then, let's finally deviate from bags for the last two. Of course, without the lungs, none of these organs would have the oxygen they need to even. Inside of the lungs, there are 480 alveoli. These bunch of balloon-looking structures surrounded in a network of tiny blood vessels. This is where your blood gets close enough to the air in your lungs to exchange carbon dioxide for oxygen. And cigarettes are like a needle to this. Needles do very naughty things to balloons. This is Ovelo. Don't let its blue or fishy shape deceive you. This is grass flying type. Like many plants, they float on the very surface of the water most of the time, but they can inflate further and float high above it to avoid deep water predators. Quite a few plants have gas sacs to help them float upright in the water, like bubble kelp, and many others form balloons around their seeds to help protect them. The zoology nerds among you may have noticed that its tail is not in the proper fish position. Rather, it's in the aquatic mammal position. And yes, because mammals breathe air, and that's Ovelo's whole point. It's lungs. Plus, this tail then doubles as a lung reference. It's kinda shaped like a pair of them, and it triples as a helicopter seed pod, which blows in the wind to disperse far and wide. The name starts and ends with O to sort of reference its balloons and also make you make a fish face while you say it. Ovelo. It also pulls from the alveolus, of course, and velo really is the perfect word here, in Esperanto for sail, like a sailboat boat, which floats on the water and relies on wind just like this mon. A few other European languages pull from the same root word for their sails as well, and that root is Latin's velum, which means sail in the context of boating, but in the context of anatomy, it refers to soft pallets and ring-shaped membranes on certain animals. Then in the context of botany, it refers to the balloon-shaped membrane that protects sporangium, which is what plants that don't use seeds use instead, like ferns. It's just too perfect of a word. Then O is from oranda if you want, those balloon-headed fish. But this mon is no fish. It is a plant that happens to look like one, kind of like a water hyacinth. And in being a plant, it sort of flips the script on what the lungs do. It breathes in carbon dioxide and breathes out oxygen instead of the other way around. Meta-wise, it's not too interesting. It's kind of like a skip loom that learned some water moves too. Nothing fancy. Looking at it, it's definitely a Pokemon that could use an evolution. But anyway, our final organ. Can you guess what it is? What primary organs are even left? No, not that one. Stop asking. If you guessed spleen, you're correct! The ever-forgotten spleen! And it's no surprise it's forgotten. Basically, every job it has is already covered by other parts and organs. That's why people can have their spleens removed and be relatively fine. The spleen filters blood, stores and maintains the fluid level in your body, and produces antibodies and white blood cells. That all sounds important, but like your bones make more white blood cells than the spleen does. Just saying. Bones aren't even organs. And it being filled with countless white blood cells and antibodies is almost like the bacteria-filled kitchen sponge you should have thrown out months ago. Sponges are also sea animals, who similarly are hosts to many crustaceans, worms, stars, and bivalve mollusks, not to mention the millions and millions of microbes and algae. So it's all perfect. Though to avoid making this mon just another bag or even just a sea sponge-shaped thing, maybe we incorporate a kitchen or surgical sponge. Sometimes those get left inside people. Yeah, and we'll still incorporate the sea sponge stalk. Somehow. Like a head? A limb? Both? Yeah, so this is Splonge. Or Splongel. Do you think I should take that L? Splonge or Splongel. It's a spleen sponge elephant. Elephants do got that water association in video games. This water type is happiest when sopping wet, though if it stays out of the water for too long, it begins to turn dry and scratchy. And of course, its shiny had to be the classic sponge color. Maybe we can get a whole rainbow of them in here. An interesting factoid is that it can learn the move Infestation because of all of the countless micro friends that call its body home. But its most unique move is this new one. Well, I wanted to call it Ring Out, but that's already a move. So how about Squeeze Out? Or just Ring? Auto Ring? Ring Self? Ring Flood? Well, this move is basically the water-type version of Burn Up. Burn Up has the user unleash all its fiery power, and thus it burns everything flammable it has in its system. So afterwards, it loses the fire type. Same deal here. Splonge squeezes itself so intensely that all of the water it had inside of it is now gone, sent off for one big surfy attack, and thus it loses its water type, becoming temporarily typeless. Oh, and causing rain. There's just so much water sent in every single direction from it. And the rain will help it out. It has the hydration ability, which heals status conditions if it's raining. It's like it's filtering out the condition like a spleen. And of course, if it had a previous evolution, it'd be named Lymphant, since the spleen is part of the lymphatic system, and it'd be an infant elephant. Yeah. So, fun question for you. What kind of design philosophy do you prefer with these Gutsmon? More literal, like it's a bladder and intestine crossed with a sea cucumber? Or more creative, like Splongel and Ovelo, who only look at the abilities of their organs and only vaguely resemble parts of them? Design philosophies of Pokemon is where opinions tend to differ a lot, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also, check out this video where we made Pokemon for the worst US state. Yeah, it's Idaho. And thanks again to WebNovel for sponsoring. Start reading light novels and comics with the link below, and never stop using your noggin.